Hi, I'm Dr. Mark, and I'm going to help you sing and perform more like the top artists around the world. I'm a professional voice teacher, performance coach, and opera stage director. I've helped thousands of singers around the world learn the techniques and methods that got the top singers to where they are. Let's talk about what makes Demi Lovato's performance of Father so awesome. Thanks to the viewer who recommended it. I've actually had more than one viewer that's asked me to respond to this. I haven't watched it. I've watched obviously little clips here and there just as I've scanned through it real quick, but I haven't listened to it all the way through, so I'm really excited to see what I'm going to find. There's got to be something that's awesome, right? And I'm sure there's tons of stuff. Let's see what's going on. Here we go.
Father, I want to say thank you, even if I'm still hurt.
Okay, just started, right? And normally when we're watching a performer, we want to encourage them not to close their eyes very much. Why? Well, because when they close their eyes, it shuts us, the audience, out. We don't get to see what they're thinking and feeling so much, right? So it's not really the best way to bring your audience in. But let's put that aside for a moment, because if our first reaction always, well, this is the right thing to do, this is how it should be done, I've heard this person say this, and so do it this way, it really kind of cuts us off from understanding why they're doing what they're doing, and that maybe they have a really good reason to do what they're doing. In this moment, I like it because it shows us two things. One thing that it shows us is it can be interpreted as almost like a prayer, right? Number two thing that it does is it starts us at an emotionally lower level. We don't get access into what she's thinking and feeling right off. It kind of starts at a distance, which lets us then kind of crescendo and grow into it a little bit, right? Which is really nice. Will this work for every song? No, but this is not every song that she's starting here. It's this particular one. So in this moment, it works for me. Next thing that I think is really awesome is she's keeping it simple. She's keeping this jaw relatively relaxed. She's keeping it really speech-like. She's not working too hard here at the start where she doesn't need to. She's in this moderate to lower range, and she's just keeping it easy and simple. That pulls us in because it reads as genuine and authentic. She's not trying to manipulate the sound or make it sound anything other than just a normal voice communicating these words. And to me, that's awesome.
Oh, I want to say bless you. I want to mean those words. Always wished you the best. I prayed for your peace. Even if you started this whole war in me.
Few other things going on. What is she doing with her body? Well, first, it's relatively relaxed. She doesn't look like she's pushing anything, forcing anything, standing too formally. You can see that her weight is balanced on one foot or the other. It frees her to move and stay relatively flexible, which is great. She's looking around. She's staying engaged with her face and what's going on. Her hands are kind of stuck in this cross position, but it, again, works for the character in the moment. When I look at her, it's believable that she's saying these words to this music with this body language. It all matches together. This takes us back to what I was saying earlier and how a lot of times we can get trapped in rules and what should be done. Instead of thinking, how do I communicate this? How is this going to be authentic? If I was watching someone feel and say these things, what would it really look like? What would I really look like in this moment? And capturing those things, what could it be instead of what should it be? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And to me, here she's just exploring these thoughts and emotions in this place, in this moment. And it reads really authentic to me.
You did your best, or did you? Sometimes I think I hate you. I'm sorry, Dad, for feeling this. I can't believe I'm saying it.
Okay, before this big section, you saw that she really took an intentional, really deep, full breath there, right? You saw her prepare this vocal mechanism. This ass space opened right up. The teeth popped out. She opened that jaw, released it, tongues forward. You can see it there in this moment that we just stopped on. It's all right there. She really had the vocal mechanism in place before she sang that first big note, right? That's really important. Not because we want to get there and set and be rigid and tight, but we want to have it open and ready to make that sound so we don't kind of test the waters and finally get the sound we need a few notes in. We get it from the very first note moving forward. The other thing that's awesome here is her airflow consistency is really on. It's a little bit of air traveling really fast. She's not wasting that air anywhere, and it just keeps in this really consistent placement for it as well. So, upper tooth smile, consistent placement, breath is where it needs to be, it's open, it's released, and we get this really buzzy forward place that works for pop and what we're seeing right now. Awesome.
I know you were a troubled man. I know you never got the chance to be yourself, to be your best. I hope that heaven's given you a second chance.
Notice that second chance. You notice how that jaw is swinging down and back there? And you'll see it in different moments. That jaw going down and back, awesome thing. We need to make sure that that jaw is releasing down and back. If it just drops down or down and forward, not what we want. You'll notice she's being really deliberate in trying to get that jaw open and down and back. That's an excellent thing that is helping her significantly here.
Father, I'm gonna say thank you. Even if I don't understand. Oh, you left us alone.
Notice those O vowels still have some width here. You'll notice if you watch the back of this jaw, you can see a little bit of hollowness here in her cheeks. There's still that ass space in there, even with the O. That's really important because if it goes to an O and it collapses and back towards an it gets really pressed and forced and it's not what we want. She keeps it open here. She wraps her lips around that even though it's relatively closed, it's still really wide open in the back. This allows the sound to stay consistent, stay forward, doesn't get swallowed, doesn't get tense and pushed. Nice.
I guess that made me who I am. Always wished you the best. I prayed for your peace.
Notice there before that high riff, she started moving more. That's cool for two reasons. One is it's cool because she's feeling a stronger emotion that would then make sense of all these riffs, right? These notes in between that really ornament each melodic note, right? So that movement shows us that she's feeling these feelings that then need to come out of her mouth. Awesome. The cool side is that you can try today is that by moving in that way, that can help release the voice and keep it from locking up before a big emotional high moment. The temptation when we're singing, especially when we're going to sing high or really have kind of a tricky part, is to kind of tense up and gear for it. But if we release those muscles and force them to keep moving, then they can't. Then it stays relaxed, easy, and open. So kind of cool both ways. It communicates something really well for her here, which I think is what the intention was, but it is also kind of a cool trick to use to free up that voice a little bit too. I'm still noticing here, her eyes are still closed basically the whole time, right? There's moments where she kind of has opened just for a moment to kind of check in with her audience a little bit, but really it's been closed. Teacher coaching me says, at least open it up. Give me some eyes here. But instead, if we back away again and say, okay, then why is she closing her eyes? Instead of judging and say that's bad, saying, well, why? If we trust her as an artist to do what she needs to do and to communicate what she means to communicate, then what is it that she's communicating? Well, she's communicating a few things. One is that these feelings are really inside her head and her body and that she's processing them internally. Two, it could also read like this is all just kind of one long prayer. Three, what makes me wonder is, in this moment, is she not wanting to look at her audience because it might make her too emotional? There's people here that this is a really potent message for. Obviously, we can see it in the film. They're crying and it means a lot. As a performer, you got to know your limits, right? Maybe she would react too strongly to that and she'd lose it, not be able to sing the whole thing. So she's kind of doing it with her eyes closed and going all the way through. Are those all valid reasons to use it? Yeah. Does that make keeping her eyes closed okay or her eyes open better? It's irrelevant. It is what it is here in this moment. We're just watching a performance. So is it working? I think it works for her here. She's still being really expressive with the rest of her body. Could it have been more expressive, engaging with her eyes open? We don't know because we haven't seen it. It's not here. But if she's in coaching, I'd be interested in seeing what would happen. Could we get more of an effect with the eyes open a little, at least a little bit more? But who knows? Still, awesome performance. Let's keep going.
Even if you started this whole war in me.
So you'll notice that she's shaping the colors of these notes in a lot of different ways. But you'll notice here, even when the front of her jaw is really pretty closed, me, it's still really open in this back place, allowing it to still be resonant, consistent, and sound like the rest of her voice. It's an eval. That makes sense why we'd have a more closed jaw, but even the rest of it, in these lower notes, she's keeping it more speech-like. She's not opening that jaw in front quite so much, and she's keeping it more simple that way. That creates its own unique color, keeps it more speech-like, more relaxed, more comfortable, and she doesn't need to really open up here at this bottom. It's not loud either. So this range that she's giving us of colors and shaping while still keeping it open and consistent in the back, still releasing the jaw, still keeping the tongue forward, still keeping the breath consistent, still keeping that placement nice and buzzy and forward, still not locking onto that breath and keeping it suspended, doing a good job with breathing. That's what it's all about, is giving us as wide a variety of colors as we can with it still sounding like it's that person's true, authentic voice expressing these words, this emotion. Awesome.
You did your best, or did you? Sometimes I think I hate you. I'm sorry, Dad, for feeling this. I can't believe I'm saying it.
Okay, if we didn't see her face react in all these minute micro gestures that related to her words, would we believe her in the moment when she's talking about feeling this, that she's really feeling this in the moment? No, we wouldn't. But because even with her eyes closed, she's showing all these little gestures with her face that relate to emotion, not to singing, to emotion, we'll believe it. We engage it. It's important. The only way to get there is to really be in the moment, not the moment of performing and singing, in the moment of the words and the emotion. She's got to really be thinking that she's talking to this father, right? Whether it's her own or imaginary one, doesn't matter. But she's got to come up with this person that she's really talking to in this moment, even though she's in this setting around her that she's performing in that is not there. She's got to believe it in the moment for her body to be able to respond that way. That's one thing that's awesome. And that lets us believe that she's really engaged with what she's singing and talking about, and that she's living in that moment, is that her body's responding that way, because it's the only way to get it.
I know you were a troubled man. I know you never got the chance to be yourself, to be your best. I hope that heaven's given you
Ah. That's what he's singing right now. Just ah. And you'll notice that jaw's down and back. The upper two smiles out there. She started slightly on the glottal side and a little bit pressurized, but that airflow is a little teeny tiny bit of air traveling really fast, really whiny, really buzzy. And it's this glorious sound up there, right? Really cool. Notice how that tongue, it's so forward, and when she gets a new vowel, I, right? It's just the tongue pulls up a little bit in the front middle part. Perfect. If she just pulled up the back of the tongue instead of that middle forward part that you're seeing going up and down, it would get tight, it would get pinched, it would get forced, it would pull the placement back, it'd cause all kinds of havoc up there. But because it's just this front part coming up and forward, and that resonant space stays open, it stays the teeth stay out, the air stays consistent, it's on the money.
Sometimes I think I hate you. I'm sorry, Dad, for feeling
she's smiling. She got this up to smile. Why would she do that in not a happy moment? Well, it doesn't rate as happy, right? The rest of her face doesn't say happen. We actually smile and use those upper teeth with anger, happy, pain, all the time. The temptation we sing is all of a sudden to cover it because it lets us hear it better in our head. No, we're singing for the people out in the audience. And this is what she's doing here. She's keeping those teeth out, really keeps that sound forward and out, bright, helps the text be intelligible.
I know you were a troubled man. I know you never got the chance to be yourself, to be your best. I hope that heaven's given you a second chance.
Other thing that I think makes it really awesome technically is you can see a lot here what's going on with her tongue. She's keeping it super passive, which is awesome. You'll notice here that if this is my bottom jaw and this is my tongue, that it's the sides of the tongue and the back that are the biggest culprits for tension and stress here. And so if we can keep that tongue as flat as possible, as free on the sides, and as forward and untense in the back, the better it's going to be. For most people, it's going to feel like, especially as we're going to higher notes, that you're pushing that tongue forward a little bit and trying to keep it as flat as possible. That doesn't mean we can make the consonants sloppy or not produce the right vowels. We do, but we have to produce those consonants and vowels in a way that's as passive with that tongue as possible, so it's not getting involved in the sound making, and she does an awesome job with that here. I loved her performance. Even though her eyes were closed pretty much the whole time, it was still really expressive with what she's doing with her face. Was she moving a lot? No, but her body, entire body, was still engaged and expressing. Nothing was frozen, stiff, or stuck. That's what's really huge. Go and video yourself as you're performing if you're wanting to improve, and see, are there any moments where any part of your body looks stiff, stuck, rigid, and is not responding to what you're feeling? If so, move it. Get it moving, relax it, release it, and let it respond to the emotion that is going on inside your body and that the song and the text is calling for. Love the video. Hope you enjoyed it too. Great song and performance. Loved it. So awesome. If you want a voice lesson, a performance coaching, or want me to work with you or your group to help you sing easier or perform at a consistently higher level, book a time with me at mrperformingartstudio.com. I look forward to working with you online.